The massive Imperial dreadnought hung in Earth's orbit like a silent predator, its sleek black hull absorbing the light of the sun. It was one of the most feared warships in the galaxy, a symbol of the Galactic Empire's absolute authority. To the countless civilizations that had fallen before the Empire's might, such a ship meant only one thing: surrender or be destroyed. The message came through all frequencies, broadcasted in perfect translation. The voice was cold, devoid of emotion, carrying only the weight of power. This is Commander Vero of the Galactic Empire. Your world has been chosen for annexation. Surrender immediately or face eradication. On the surface, the people of Earth listened. Some felt fear, others anger. But the ones in charge, those sitting in the underground war rooms, those who had seen the galaxy's darkness long before this day, felt something else. They felt prepared. Inside the United Earth Command bunker, the atmosphere was tense but controlled. Generals and strategists studied the massive holographic display of the Imperial warship in orbit, their expressions unreadable. The President of Earth, a woman known for her sharp mind and even sharper resolve, stood at the center of it all. Her voice was calm when she finally spoke. "Send them our response." The message was short, sent in the same emotionless tone as the Empire's own transmission. "This is Earth. Leave now or face the consequences." There was silence, a pause that stretched for long seconds before laughter erupted aboard the Imperial dreadnought. Commander Vero leaned back in his command chair, amusement flashing across his reptilian features. In all his years of conquest, no species had ever dared to speak to the Empire in such a way. "Pathetic," he muttered. "They think they have a choice." With a flick of his clawed fingers, he ordered his crew to fire a warning shot. A brilliant bolt of plasma erupted from the ship's main cannon, streaking through the void toward the barren surface of Earth's moon. It was a simple show of force, a reminder of the power they were up against. But then something impossible happened. The plasma bolt vanished. One moment, it was tearing through space, a blast of destruction moving at impossible speed. The next, it was simply gone, erased from existence as if it had never been fired. The bridge of the Imperial dreadnought fell into stunned silence. Commander Vero shot up from his seat, his eyes narrowing. "What was that?" he growled. His crew frantically worked at their consoles, scanning for any anomalies, any signs of interference. But there was nothing. No fleet, no defense station, no known technology capable of intercepting a shot mid-space. It was as if the shot had hit a wall of nothingness and ceased to exist. Another message came from Earth. This time, there was no emotionless tone, no cold formality. It was a simple statement, carrying an edge of warning. "Last chance. Turn back." Commander Vero's lips curled into a snarl. No civilization had ever stopped an Imperial attack before. No one had ever dared to give them an ultimatum. He turned to his weapons officer and barked a single order: "Charge all cannons. Full barrage. Let's see if they can stop this." But before his officers could execute the command, the ship's alarms screamed to life. Red warning lights flashed across the bridge. Systems flickered, struggling against an unseen force. And then the sensors picked up something massive moving toward them from the far side of the moon. The crew barely had time to react before the Imperial dreadnought's external cameras caught sight of it. Emerging from the darkness was a structure, a ship, unlike anything the Empire had ever encountered. It was massive, sleek, and angular, gliding through space with an eerie silence. And then, without warning, the unknown vessel vanished. No warp signature, no light distortion. It simply disappeared into the void. A cold chill ran through Commander Vero's veins as a terrifying realization settled over him. The warning from Earth had not been a bluff. They had no idea what they were dealing with. "You said." The silence on the Imperial dreadnought's bridge was heavy, the kind that made even the most hardened officers uneasy. No one spoke. No one moved. They all stared at the sensor readings, trying to understand what had just happened. A ship that size should not be able to move unseen. And yet, it had disappeared as if space itself had swallowed it. Commander Vero clenched his jaw, his sharp teeth grinding together in frustration. He refused to believe what his eyes were telling him. "Find that ship," he ordered, his voice low and dangerous. "I don't care what it takes. Find it." His crew scrambled, running deep scans, searching for any trace of energy fluctuations, warp distortions, anything that could explain the impossible. But there was nothing. A moment later, a new signal appeared, coming from Earth. It was another transmission, but this time, it was not a warning. It was a set of coordinates. Vero's eyes narrowed. He studied the numbers flashing on the display. The location was far beyond Earth's orbit, positioned in deep space, away from any known celestial bodies. A trap? Perhaps, but the arrogance of this species was beyond anything he had encountered. Did they truly believe they could dictate the terms of this engagement? He sneered. Enough of these games. Raising his hand, he signaled to his fleet. "Send the second wave," he commanded. "A full assault. Destroy whatever defenses they think they have." From the dreadnought's underbelly, a dozen Imperial warships detached, their thrusters igniting as they descended toward Earth. Each one was a harbinger of destruction, equipped with enough firepower to reduce a continent to ashes. The skies above Earth darkened as the fleet closed in. And then it happened. Without warning, the lead ship in the formation exploded, torn apart in an instant. No energy signatures, no missile impact. Just pure, instant annihilation. The explosion was so sudden, so absolute, that the other warships barely had time to react before the second ship was erased in the same way. Panic rippled through the Imperial fleet. Desperate calls filled the command channels. "We are under attack. Unknown weapon, unable to detect." The signal cut out. Another ship was gone. From the dreadnought, Vero's claws dug into the armrests of his chair as he watched his forces crumble without a single shot fired from Earth. "Where is it?" he roared. "Where is the enemy?" But there was nothing. No visible attackers, no sign of movement. Then the sensors finally caught something. A disturbance, small, almost imperceptible, weaving through the Imperial formation. Something was there, moving too fast for their systems to track. Vero's eyes widened. That was no planetary defense system. This was something else, something designed for war on a scale the Empire had never encountered. Then a message came through. This time, it was not from Earth. It came directly from the unseen enemy. The voice was calm, calculated. It spoke in perfect Imperial standard. "You were warned." Vero barely had time to register the words before another ship vanished from his fleet. The realization hit him like a cold wave. Earth was not the one under siege. The Empire was. "You said." Panic rippled through the Imperial fleet as ship after ship vanished, erased as if they had never existed. The once invincible armada, which had crushed countless civilizations, was now being hunted. And the worst part, they couldn't even see their attacker. Commander Vero's claws dug into the armrests of his command chair. His reptilian heart pounded in his chest, his mind racing through every possible explanation. No species had ever possessed technology like this. No race had ever dared to strike first against the Galactic Empire. But Earth had. "Activate full spectrum scans." Vero barked, his voice carrying the edge of barely contained rage. "I want all ships on defensive formations. No one fires unless they have a confirmed target." The Imperial fleet scrambled, shifting into tighter formations, their weapons primed. But it didn't matter. The attacks continued. Another ship flickered out of existence. Then another. No energy signatures, no visible weapons, just absolute destruction. Then the sensors picked up something. A ripple in space, a brief distortion, so small it would have gone unnoticed under normal conditions. Lock onto that signature. Fire everything. A barrage of plasma beams and kinetic rounds ripped through space, converging on the distortion. For a brief second, they saw it, a shape moving at impossible speed. The unknown vessel twisted, its sleek form reflecting starlight before vanishing again. But the glimpse was enough. Vero's blood ran cold. It wasn't just a warship. It was something far beyond Imperial technology. And then the transmission came, directly into their communication network. A human voice, calm, measured, but carrying a weight of absolute certainty. You were given a choice. Vero's throat tightened. He had issued ultimatums his entire life, bringing world after world under Imperial rule with threats alone. And yet, in this moment, he understood something terrifying. He was the one receiving an ultimatum. Who are you? He snarled. What is this madness? Silence. Then the voice spoke again, its tone colder than before. Earth is not defenseless. You assumed your strength made you untouchable. You were wrong. The bridge of the Imperial dreadnought was deathly quiet. Every officer, every soldier was frozen, waiting for their commander to respond. Vero's eyes flickered to the remaining ships in his fleet. The once mighty force that had arrived to conquer was now reduced to less than half its strength, and the destruction wasn't stopping. A choice lay before him. He could push forward, risk complete annihilation, or retreat. For the first time in his life, Commander Vero felt true fear. The transmission came once more. This time, it carried one final warning. Turn back now and live. Defy us, and you will not return home. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the attack stopped. No more ships vanished. No new distortions. It was as if the invisible predator was waiting, giving them a moment to decide. Vero's claws trembled against the command console. The Empire did not retreat. The Empire did not bow. But in this moment, staring at the remains of his shattered fleet, he realized one thing. The Empire had underestimated Earth, and it might have just cost them everything. You said. A suffocating silence fell over the Imperial dreadnought's bridge. Every officer, every soldier, waited for Vero's next words. Their once mighty fleet had been reduced to wreckage, and the enemy, the invisible hunter, had given them a chance to leave. But Vero was a commander of the Galactic Empire. He had never retreated in his life. His claws flexed against the armrests of his command chair. The decision before him was impossible. The Empire had crushed 1,000 worlds. They had never been defeated, never been challenged like this. And yet here, before a world they had dismissed as primitive, they were losing. A low growl rumbled in his throat. Open a direct channel, he ordered. His communication officer hesitated. To whom, sir? Vero's eyes burned with defiance. To them. A static hum filled the bridge as the transmission connected. Then, once more, that voice came through. Cold, measured, human. You have seconds left, Commander. Vero exhaled slowly, steadying himself. We do not negotiate with lesser species, he growled. You think yourselves powerful because of one ambush. His claws tightened into a fist. The Empire will return. We will burn your world to ash. We will. No, the voice interrupted. A single word, but it carried the weight of something final. Before Vero could respond, the ship trembled violently. The crew gasped as the main view screen shifted, displaying something impossible. A wrecked Imperial battleship, floating lifeless in space. But this was no ordinary wreckage. It was their reinforcements. Vero's eyes widened in horror. That fleet had been weeks away, undetectable to any known species, and yet there it was, destroyed, torn apart. How? His voice was barely a whisper. The human voice answered, calm as ever. You don't understand, Commander. We were never just defending Earth. The realization struck like a thunderbolt. The Empire hadn't been hunting them. Humanity had been hunting the Empire. Vero's breath came in short, sharp gasps. This wasn't just a battle. This wasn't just an ambush. This was a trap, one so vast, so well orchestrated, that the Empire had walked straight into it without knowing. The human continued, "You will leave now, and you will tell your Emperor exactly what happened here." Vero trembled with rage. He wanted to fight. He wanted to strike back. But the wreckage on the screen, the deadly silence of what remained of his fleet, there was no fight left to win. With his teeth clenched, he hissed his final words. "This is not over." The transmission cut. Vero's claws dug into the console as he gave the order he never thought he'd give in his lifetime. Withdraw. And for the first time in history, the Empire ran. The retreating Imperial fleet limped through the void, battered and broken. Commander Vero sat in silence, his mind reeling. The shame of withdrawal burned in his chest, but worse than shame was fear. Fear of what they had encountered. Fear of what they had awakened. The Empire had crushed countless worlds, subjugated entire species, rewritten history through fire and conquest. Yet now, for the first time, they had been forced to retreat, not by an armada, not by overwhelming numbers, but by something far worse. Humanity had planned for them. As his ship jumped to hyperspace, Vero activated a secure transmission to the Imperial core worlds. The holographic form of High Emperor Xalzur flickered to life before him. Towering and imperious, his golden scales glinting in the dim light. Vero knelt. "My Emperor." Xalzur's slitted eyes narrowed. "Why do you return without Earth in chains, Vero?" His voice was calm, but Vero could hear the danger beneath it. "Explain." Vero exhaled shakily. "Earth is not what we believed. Their defenses, their technology, it is beyond anything in the archives." A ripple of laughter filled the chamber. The Imperial court, generals, admirals, warlords, watched with amused contempt. The great Commander Vero, defeated by a primitive world. One of them sneered, "Do you cower before a few planetary defenses?" Vero's claws clenched. "You misunderstand." His voice was hoarse, but firm. "We did not face planetary defenses. We faced something else." The laughter faded. Xalzur studied him. "Explain." Vero swallowed. "We never saw them. Our ships vanished. No energy signatures, no trace of weapons fire. And they destroyed the reinforcements before they even arrived." A murmur spread through the court. That was impossible. No empire, no species, no enemy had ever done such a thing. Xalzur's eyes darkened. "You fear them." Vero's breath hitched, but he did not deny it. He couldn't. Xalzur leaned forward. "Tell me, Commander, do they know what they have done?" Vero hesitated. The humans had warned him. They had let him leave. They had given him a message to deliver. And suddenly, he realized the terrifying truth. The humans knew exactly what they were doing. His voice was barely a whisper. "They wanted us to return." Silence fell over the Imperial court. And then, for the first time in centuries, the Empire knew fear. "You said." The silence in the Imperial court was suffocating. Every warlord, every high-ranking officer, every advisor to the Emperor stood frozen, absorbing the weight of Vero's words. Humanity wanted them to return. The implications were horrifying. The Galactic Empire had faced resistance before, rebellions, insurgencies, even rival empires, but never had an enemy lured them into a battle only to let them escape. Emperor Xalzur's golden eyes burned with something unreadable. "They allowed you to live." Vero nodded. "Yes, my Emperor." One of the warlords scoffed. "Then they are fools." He turned to the Emperor. "We should return at once. Not with a single fleet, but with the full might of the Empire. We will erase them." Vero didn't react. He simply exhaled and said, "That is exactly what they want." The warlord's snarl faltered. The court murmured among themselves, some whispering of cowardice, others of strategy. But Xalzur remained still, his gaze never leaving Vero. "Explain." Vero forced himself to breathe evenly. "They were never just defending Earth. They have been watching us." studying us, waiting. His claws dug into his palm. If we return in force, we walk into the unknown. We fight an enemy that has already proven they can strike us down without warning. We would be marching to our own execution. The warlord slammed a fist against the table. Bah! You cower before shadows. Varro's gaze snapped to him. They wiped out an entire reinforcement fleet before they even arrived. How? We don't know. We don't understand their capabilities. That is the problem. We know nothing about them, yet they know everything about us. His voice dropped. We are the ones who are being hunted. A thick tension settled over the court. Zalzur finally moved, rising from his throne. Then we will change the game. Varro hesitated. My emperor. The ruler of the Galactic Empire stepped forward, his expression unreadable. If they have been watching, then we must force them into the light. We will not strike blindly, nor will we retreat like cowards. His golden scales shimmered as he turned to his advisors. Summon the Imperial Intelligence Division. Mobilize the shadow fleets. If Earth has secrets. His eyes gleamed with cold fury. We will uncover them. And then, his claws flexed. We will burn them all.